Welcome to One EMS. I'm Charles McFall, and I'm here talking about anything and everything under the sun involved in EMS, and really that plays into fire. We're all one big group now coming together, and I'm with Susan. I already lost your name again. I'm sorry.
Dasher.
Dasher.
The reindeer.
You're right. Right. Susan Dasher, who's administrative assistant to all the chiefs here at Bryan County, and you are interesting to me, because a lot of EMS would just dismiss you, and I've seen that, like dispatchers are enemies and billings are enemies. It's not. We're all in this together, and you see a whole different perspective to fire and EMS than anybody else does. What brought you to become an administrative assistant to all the chiefs at Bryan County?
Well, I started out in the medical field, and if I was a little bit younger, I'd have probably gone to nursing school. But I was living in Riceboro and needed a job, and I ended up working in the fire service. And I worked for Liberty County for 4.5 years. Ended up part-time. I was working part-time for them, 2 different departments, and I was doing it all. Whenever I say I was doing it all, it was on the fire side of things. But anyway, 4.5 years later, I'm with Bryan County. Chief Howell met me. I was working for Bryan County Planning and Zoning. And, it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And
Sure.
So we met each other just in passing, and I was like, I applied with you. He's like, you did? I was like, yep. He said, I'm going to get you over here. Well, it took him a year, and he got me here. So I came to work here in 2015 and started out. I was just basically thrusted into the job. Loved it because in fire and EMS, there's like I don't want to say brotherhood, but it's a family.
There's a bond there.
There's
that you
a
don't
bond.
Get necessarily
Yes,
other places.
there's a
Sure.
bond, and so there's stigmas on the EMS side as well as there's stigmas on the fire side. Well, we are a dual department. Everybody here is certified in fire. Everybody here is certified in EMS, level EMTB all the way to paramedic. And so I was working with and listening to, hearing the calls, learning the tones, and I just started hearing things such as, they're just a glorified driver. Well, an EMTB, they may be drivers, but guess what? A paramedic is only as good as the EMT that they're working with.
It is a team.
It takes 2.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3. sometimes more.
That's true.
And so I decided to sit in on the EMTB class, and because I might be just an administrative assistant, but I could be an administrative assistant that can go to a call if need be, or if we have a walk-up, I can take care of the walk-up until a paramedic gets there if they're out on a call, so I can be useful. There's just so much that these guys go through, and for them to just be their level, or their level of medical training, to be downplayed by being just a glorified driver, no.
Yeah, there used to be a thing we had that I looked like I have a steering wheel on my shoulder until the EMT patch became a circle. Then we could stop saying that. So tell me a little bit more about, you said some of the reason you went to EMT school, or at least sat through it, and you're working on getting your numbers now, is because of that perception. Obviously it changes your perception, but what does you going to school help change public perception? What do you hope to do there?
To be able to lend a hand, and when people ask me, just as you are asking me, I can say, yeah, I started out as an administrative assistant and now I'm an EMT. And so therefore I'm a level up, so to speak, or just being able to lend a hand. As I said earlier, if I had to do it all over again, I'd go to nursing school. But
Yeah.
And that's a whole another level. We're all in this together, and so therefore, if EMS and the ERs can realize that they're all working together and figure out the best way to work better together, because every hospital's different. You know, depending on whether or not it's a trauma center or if it's a rural hospital or whatever, what they require, but having a platform maybe where everybody is of the same communication or mindset.
We start at the human level,
Yep.
right? Talk to each other like human beings. Because you're talking about that perspective. One of the things I saw differently that I'm going to ask you about is kind of what I alluded to before. There's a air of superiority in medicine, EMT. I'm talking about EMS specifically. I mean, when I went to EMT school, literally was taught by two paramedics who worked at a fire department. Instead of everything being dummy proof, it was firefighter proof, and they taught almost a hate of fire. And for many, many years as I came up, there was a anti each other thing. And even for those of you who look up the show Rescue Me, they play on those stereotypes of the fire hates the police and the police hates, you know, it's this rivalry. That's not a good one. But it even gets worse outside of the field of looking down on all those that help us. And in your case, you started off at a desk. You're doing all the paperwork and getting the things done that have to be done every day to make, for lack of better words, my job possible if I'm on the street. So have you seen any kind of negativity or bad perspective coming from the EMS side and fire side towards you?
Them coming to, not really negativity, it's just sometimes I feel that the perception of the public and EMS, the way that they take advantage of EMS.
Okay.
If we have a speaker system throughout the station and we can hear the calls. And so therefore you have one patient that, this is going to be out there, but one patient that's stumped their toe and fell or whatever. And then the very next call, which is given to the very, the next closest station. So you got one ambulance that's out on a stump toe or
a non-emergent call. Like,
non-emergent
okay,
call.
Like
right. And then all of a sudden,
yeah.
the next call is a STEMI, a possible heart attack. So there's an abuse there. That person.
It's an imbalance sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
That person could have drove themselves to the nearest urgent care or what have you to be taken care of. And then they wonder why they got a bill.
Yeah. Or I don't agree with negative. I've had plenty of them. I've had plenty of negative attitudes, and that's why I really stand against them. But it's hard to not have a negative attitude when you get called at 3 a.m. for somebody's stomach's hurting, and as you're doing your questions as a medic, and they go, "Well, this started 3 days ago." I'm like, "Why are you waking up at 3 a.m. now to come take you to an ER that's full of people because it's now flu season, much less COVID, forget about that. But just a standard sick season, why are you waiting?" And it does become this imbalance of responsibility and you. So technically, you as a citizen, right, you're still in the admin side of things and you're working towards blending it together, getting that information, which I applaud you for getting the information. What would you, from one citizen to the other, what would you say to somebody to help change that perspective of how to handle their 911 needs?
Before you pick up that phone, And see, not everybody thinks alike. Before you pick up that phone to call 911, say to yourself, is it really an emergency? Do I want to incur this bill? These people are working hard 24 hours a day, some 2 to 3 to 4 shift. Well, they usually can work, up to 72 hours without a day off, I think is, and I guess
every department's different, but that might be Bryan County's
I think that's 72.
That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time, and just think about how taxed that the EMS personnel are. But maybe we need to get more of a public perspective out, to them, because the only stupid question is the one not asked, and people are not asking. And maybe if we, just like with fire prevention, we have EMS prevention, or what would it be? Just EMS have a more public approach to them, so that it gives them a way to think about it.
So that has been one of my battles, right? One of the things that I've fought against is in EMS specifically. Some of it's with fire, right? You get that wall of, well, only one person can talk to the public, or you hide things. But in EMS is really bad. It's almost ask forgiveness and not permission. You never let anybody know what you're doing. So that's one of the things we do with One EMS is break that barrier, flip it. I'll talk about anything with anybody. And from my company on, I'll tell you why we do things. And I'm going to ask you a question here. Do you know what essential means when it comes to fire services?
Essential for me is essential personnel.
It is. And that's what the public sees now. We have that hashtag essential personnel, and everybody celebrated the nurses and doctors in the front line. And then they've even expanded, they being the general citizenship and media, have expanded what frontline means, right, during COVID. Mm-hmm. It's not just the hospitals. It is the businesses, I've said, the grocers and the people that still getting us our food. Those are essential people. So we think that way, right? Mm-hmm. We can see that instantly. But in reality, when you have a municipality like Bryan County, essential is police and fire. Mm-hmm. That's it. And ambulance is not an essential service, yet the public thinks it is, and that's why they hit 911, because we've been trained. Well, that's what you do. You call 911. Well, now we've got to balance the other side of ambulances don't have to be here. I want them here. I think they should be here. But that's where a lot of the financial talk comes into play of what the problem is. And fortunately, my experience with Bryan County seems to be you guys believe in all of it. You believe in EMS, you believe in fire, you believe in supporting your people and doing a good job. And that's somewhat rare in my experience.
Well, I think that the people, I think that I'm going to go out here and say, I think that there is within the surrounding counties, the ones that border us, we see a lot of people leaving one service to come to another service just based upon pay.
Yes.
I think that there should be, pay should of course be the first and foremost, and then insurance on that person as well as that person's family. And then the ambulances, the equipment that's on the ambulance. I think that everybody that does this job should be able to have as close to the state-of-the-art equipment or the equipment that they feel best suits their needs. And I think that they should all get paid at a fair wage.
So now you're talking Braslow's hierarchy, is what I hear all that. So that's a pyramid of what you need to survive. And at the bottom is food and shelter, and it goes up. When you talk about pay, you're talking about putting food on their table and make sure they don't have to worry about that at the end of the day. When you talk about the insurance on them and their family, that's the safety, knowing that something goes wrong, they're taken care of. Even the gear and the equipment, we do the same thing at Trinity and Life Care. We have power lifts and power stretchers because we wanted people who work for us to understand that we value them as a person. So now we're protecting your back and your health. Stress, you're taking stress off of people, and that's really kind of what it sounds like you're talking about.
I think, with the rate of pay and the way that they change jobs, if we could keep the good ones, have some longevity. I mean, I've been with Bryan County for 6 years. For the longest time, it felt like my number was 4 years. Well, I mean, you know, so I'm now approaching my 10-year mark. I mean, and these guys, EMS, they're young. They're young. They come out of high school. They're not sure what they want to do with their life. They're not sure if they want to go to technical school or whatever. Oh, I'm going to be an EMT, or I'm going to be a firefighter.
Sure.
And so they start out young, and they don't really think about all those things until and then all of a sudden they're, oh my gosh, I'm in my 30s. And getting good people, keeping good people, and understanding what these people are wanting with One EMS. So hopefully we'll have this platform so that people can dialogue back and forth and change some of this so that they're the public persona, the hospital's persona, and they can be more valued.
I like it. I love it. How to make careers and change people's lives. So there's 4 questions I'd like to ask, kind of not rapid fire, but what's the first thing that kind of comes to your mind, especially from your perspective of sitting at that desk and how you came into it, which I love. And I love that you went on to get the information, and even if you get the certification, it doesn't sound like you're trying to change your career. You just want to be more helpful, and it will tie in. But what is it that you love about this job being in EMS from your perspective?
These people are my family. Whenever I come to work, I'm coming to work with my family. And what better place to be? I mean, when you have a job, you need to love it's not, you don't need to. It's best that you love your job, because you can do a better job if you like what you're doing. And I look forward to making a difference every day and making sure that the people that I work with and work for are taken care of. We are getting ready to open up a new station, and I am the one who's in charge. Not only am I the administrative assistant, but I basically take care of supplies. And whenever I say supplies, I mean station supplies, from the training equipment and furniture that's in the training room to the furniture that they sit on whenever they finish that call. I have to make sure that my people are comfortable. And whenever I go in and take care of a station, I make sure that it's decked out to accommodate my people as far as I can possibly accommodate them. So this is my family, and I try to make where they're going to stay for 24 hours as comfortable as my own home.
I like it.
So there's that.
That's great. That's great. I'll bring it to your experience here with Bryan County. And even you said you were with someone else, the municipality, for 4 years and other things. What's one of the changes that you've seen happen in your career around EMS, around here in the county, that was a change that was a long time coming and really made a difference?
Changes.
Well, I know both the chiefs I talked to today talked about how y'all are flipping trucks almost every 2 years now, instead of having to maintain old beaters and run down vehicles, stuff like that. You know, what have you seen make a huge difference in the lives of your family here?
We were talking earlier about equipment. Whenever I first came to work here, we had manual stretchers, and now we have power cots, and we have Lucas devices, and that makes a world of difference. Whenever you start CPR on somebody, and you have to do CPR from point A to point B, which our drive time on the north end going emergent is probably about a 30-minute drive. So 30 minutes worth of CPR.
It's a long time.
And now we have a Lucas device. I mean, you know, they're not fail set. I mean, you know, they're not.
Sure.
So that helps take care of the person that's applying the CPR to the patient. So equipment, stations. We've been in our new station for 2 years. Rome wasn't built in a day. And Chief Howell has gone to bat with our administrative staff for Bryan County, our administrator and what have you, to articulate to them. And that's, again, what I think, if there was a way that we could have them understand it a bit more from our level, that they would be more inclined to take care of things faster.
I understand. That, you're right. I'll actually come back to the middle question, because I usually end with this, and I'll jump right to it. This is a great transition. With one EMS, I've seen that problem too. It's not a lack of caring. It's sometimes a lack of understanding from county commissioners up to state senators. And even from the EMTs and medics not understanding who the they is. And people love to go, well, they did this. Who's they? Well, they don't even know. They don't even know there's 10 EMS districts. They don't know the Office of EMS and how it differs and aligns with DPH or Department of Health. They don't. So we're trying to bring all of that together. So with that in mind, with the communication, what's something from your perspective that one EMS could tackle to help bring communication together?
I think that if we could send a video to the different municipalities explaining to them the need for EMS, maybe getting to them on a personal level, their family. Mm-hmm. I mean, we joke about it, and not really joke about it, but no one really knows how important EMS and fire and police are until it's affecting them directly. And it's like, oh my gosh. And it just about has to be a life-altering moment for it to set, if you will.
Yeah.
To set in your mind. And then the appreciation comes. And then the ball starts rolling for that one individual. Well, how many county commissioners do we have? How many city officials do we have? So articulating, let's say one county or city official is affected. Articulating their experience to the other 9 or however many more.
Man, what if when you got elected county commissioner or city councilman or whatever level it is that affects Bryan County specifically, that mandatory they had to come ride a whole shift?
Oh my gosh.
Just one shift.
Just
with
one
the busiest
shift.
truck, just to get that perspective. And police as well.
They wouldn't even have to. They wouldn't even have to ride. Just go sit in the station and listen to the tones drop, and listen to the dispatchers call out the calls, and hearing the description of that call, not using 10 codes, using plain English, listening to how sometimes jolting it is. So I mean, and how quickly they drop, and hearing that a battalion chief had to get on an EMS unit because they were down.
There's nobody else, right? Yeah.
So I think that would change perspective. So I say education and being informative to the political officials to get them to understand the dire need.
That's kind of the running joke when you go through an area that needs a guardrail, then all of a sudden the guardrail shows up, like, oh, somebody important must have got hurt or died here, and I learned that actually the hard way when I was a kid. It was true that a county commissioner's son ran off an embankment, and that's when they finally, after years of needing it, finally got a guardrail put up. And unfortunately, that happens sometimes, but what we're talking about is possibly educating them before tragedy happens, so we can get ahead of it. Because that's important.
For getting them to understand how important we are. And hopefully with that importance, it will help increase salaries. So therefore that the people, let's think about it. These EMTs, these paramedics, sometimes they don't feel appreciated. But when you get a pay increase, they start to feel it. And you start seeing it in the way that there's some people that they wake up every day and they're 100.
Yeah.
They give it 100 no matter what. But then there's also some people that they wake up and they're like,
not today.
Not today, and I'm not feeling appreciated, so
yep.
I'm going to give it 50.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever they get that pay increase, they'll give it 100 for a while. And, just, again, it's education and understanding and being informative. And with One EMS, I think that would probably help change the dialogue.
We will definitely focus on that. So the third question, I'll end with this one, but this is what we'll throw in. From your unique perspective, what's the biggest problem you see, in your case, Bryan County facing today?
Adequate staffing.
Okay. Are you short staffed here? Everywhere seems to be, but you guys
again
hiring.
Again, as I said earlier, for a while we were getting medics and EMTs from other agencies. Mm-hmm. But from what I understand from talking to Chief Howell and other people, there's just a shortage of medics and EMTs because people are retiring, and the lack of people coming up behind them with the desire.
Yeah.
And there's people that are getting burnt out and they're changing professions. I've seen a lot of people start with us and they leave to become a flight medic, or they leave to go in search of their nursing degree, or they leave to go become a physician, and drop from a full-time status to a part-time status. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So adequate staffing. Having, an EMT and a medic to make an ALS truck. We try very hard. We strive to run only ALS. So.
Yeah, I get you.
Staffing.
That's why we have these conversations, right? The theme for Bryan County today seemed to be retention, recruitment, education, perspective. Honestly, perspective has been the key word in all the interviews today, and that's something we're trying to bring more of. The conversations all bring us together, and that's what we need, because together we are One EMS.